Cool. So a little bit of a side note, if you can't tell already, I've built this slide deck in AI Studio. So Google AI Studio, this is where I build the majority of my slide decks, where I don't need to worry too much about branding. It's really we've got our brand colors in here, but I'm not stressing about where everything sits. It takes me less than 5 minutes to get a really nice slide deck together now, compared to what I used to do before, which was like quite a long time, remarkably long time, trying to think about where everything should go. So, if you're interested in this, I'm going to be putting out a session 2 soon on how you can build these types of slide decks yourselves. But yeah, just a bit of an aside. So as I mentioned, I'm trying to make it so that people use these AI tools. And really, this year, 2026, we're going to see a bit of a shift in the way that we are being expected to use the tools that we're now being provided. So as I mentioned, you guys have access to a new tool, the Zoom AI Companion. You also have access to the new one in Google, which is Google AI uh, Workflow Studio, which enables you to basically string some AI together. So rather than doing your single prompt that you might do now in Gemini or your LLM Studio, you may now actually string these prompts together, and that's what I'm going to come to today. I know your business will be providing you tailored AI tools this year, like ones that are specific to your actual business unit as well, I believe. And also, there's going to be a massive trend towards personal efficiency. So now it is now an expectation in every role that you're actually leveraging some of this stuff yourself and you're not waiting for it to be delivered to you. This is what I'm expecting to see this year, and it's basically in lots of OKRs that I'm seeing from lots of businesses this year. The result is that lots of people are going to be getting into these new tools and they're going to be trying them, as I mentioned, and they're probably going to struggle to actually get the outputs they want. So I'm going to be talking to you today about an easy to remember framework that you can use when you're building this your workflow. You have now, with these tools, and I mentioned these tools, like let's say the automation tools with AI built in, you now have the ability to do things that you weren't able to do before. So when you're thinking about these tools, you need to be thinking about what's now possible. So maybe you can implement another language that you couldn't implement before, or maybe the level of personalization that you deliver to your market can be much more tailored than it was. All of these things require data to help back them up, but from a pure delivery point of view, you now have another arm that you can leverage to deliver beyond what you've done today. And what I'm going to be starting with today is something that will get you on that journey of thinking about how you might be able to scale yourself beyond what you do today, or even scale your team beyond what you do today. And what we're going to be focusing on is this research piece. So every marketing team, to be really effective, obviously needs to have relevant research about the market they're in, about the people that they're targeting, about what their competition are doing, and today I'm going to be focusing largely on the competition element, but this can be put into practice for any research that you may do. I've sort of covered this. You, like 90% of reports, automated ones that get created, go unread. So, especially now, even more now, because these tools, you're able to just go over to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, every day send me a competitor research report. And you'll notice that when you do that, it will schedule a task for you and it will give you that report every day. But I'd like to know how many people are really looking at that kind of report every day. I think it's quite low. And that's because the quality of these reports go down over time as your context. Hopefully, we've all sort of heard about context, the AI models and what they can remember, and what they actually use to come up with the answers. That gets really watered down over time as its chat history gets longer and it understands more. It starts bringing more of that information into your response, and it just waters down what you get. Which is where these automation tools that we'll come on to, I'll show you physically one that I've built and show you how really simple it is to build. Um, that is uh, it. What am I trying to say? The yeah, it's really easy now to build this stuff, but it's hard to actually get relevant outputs for you. Um, and the idea is that we make these things actionable, so we can turn them into tasks, we can turn them into documents that we use in our future prompts to power maybe some of the copywriting, and we'll come on to talk about that. So what I want to introduce today is something called the REAP framework. So like reaping the rewards, how I've tried to frame this so that you can benefit from having access to this new research that maybe you didn't have before. So the first phase of this uh, framework is the research phase. And if you think about these, just think about these as prompts. So when you're going over to your Chat GPT or your Gemini, your first phase is going to be to research. And this is your first prompt, it's your research prompt. And this one might say, based on my business, this is my business, I work at Zoom, I'm focused on this market. Please go and find information on these competitors, about what they've been posting recently, about what their sentiment is, about any new updates that they have to their tools and products, so that I can obviously tailor what kind of messaging I'm getting out there, or at least just understand the market better. Then we've got our evaluate phase. And so this, sorry, I should say, lots of people do this now. So people do this now, they automate this now, but they don't necessarily actually do the next phases, which will benefit you quite greatly in comparison to someone purely just doing the research phase. As we know, AI can hallucinate. As we also know, AI can bring back a huge amount of information that isn't necessarily vetted. So it might come from some random source that it found on the website, on the web. And it's not really a reliable source, but it's just giving it to you in the stream. What we do now, so we take this a step further. Now that we have automation tools, we take this a step further. And for every bit of research that we do, we also do an evaluate phase. And in this evaluate phase, we use AI to judge the quality of the content that's just created for us. And we say to it, go and vet the sources that you have used to generate this previous piece of content. Go and validate that that information isn't just marketing fluff. Other people are actually talking about it in the market. Make sure that there's more than one source that sort of references this piece of information. And we do all of this in an automated way in our work. The next phase of the workflow is the assess phase. And this is where we actually make it so that this content is relevant to us. And again, this is another automated step in our workflow, and we do it for every bit of research that we produce. So often AI will bring us back big chunks of information, so maybe 20, 30 different topics. What I only care about most of the time is just the top, the cream of the crop of those topics. And what we do in this assess phase is we actually score the content based on the criteria that we give it. So if I am in a product marketing team and we're competing against, say, against Microsoft Teams, I probably really care about the features that Microsoft are releasing, just in case they now compete with what our USP was, and therefore I need potentially a strategy to determine how I now sell against or market against Microsoft. Or maybe I'm in a more field marketing team, and therefore the assess phase is more about what people in my specific market are engaging with, or maybe some of the more macro or micro trends that are happening in my particular region. And therefore, what I'd be doing at this phase in my prompt is basically tailoring the workflow so that it's relevant to me. And what we do is we tell the AI, give us a score every bit of content based on my criteria. And then finally, we filter that criteria down so that we are only receiving the information that's relevant to us, and it's graded for us. And now that we've got access to these automation tools, we can do this automatically for every bit of research we do as well. And then finally, you've got the perform phase. And the perform phase is really where we actually make this piece of information actionable. So this is where you send it to a document and you store it in that document, and maybe you use that document in the next prompt that you use. So this is my imagine. This is my weekly research. I now have a number of campaigns that I need to develop. I'm going to use this research in my campaigns, and therefore it could form the next prompt, help go towards that next prompt. Or imagine that I'm creating a weekly report for my team that my team will read. Well, now I can just send that report directly to my team, and it's been vetted and it's been assessed for its relevance to our team before it's even gone out. And I'm obviously talking about this as in competitor research at this point in time, and those are the examples I've given purely because I've built the workflow for it. But if you're doing any other type of research, like me and Milland have worked on a event research tool, and actually we built a lot of that in Google AI Studio as well. That, for example, does a lot of desk-based research that you may be doing today. So finding out if there's any specific events that are happening on that particular week where you want to book your event. Finding out if your competition are hosting events around that time as well. Finding out if there's potentially some severe weather or any train strikes, for example, that may affect what your event is. This is all research that we need to vet and assess to make it relevant to us. So what does that look like in practice? What I will show you in just a second may look complicated immediately. However, I've done it to assess 4 competitors. So if you were to just going to assess one competitor, or you didn't have many competitors to assess, you could probably do this in singles. But I've tried to make it so that it is as robust as possible for assessing multiple competitors. So I've built, this is Zoom AI Companion. I realise that this is probably microscopic for you. I just want you to see it on the screen initially before I then dive into a little bit more of the detail. This is Zoom AI Companion. There are 2 different workflow tools that I've noticed at Zoom. One of them doesn't necessarily have a lot of AI features yet. It's much more, it's inside your Zoom desktop tool. This one I could only get to from the web. I don't know if that's just me, but this one is the Zoom AI Companion app on the web at Zoom, ai.zoom.us. And this has access to the AI tool. Inside here, as I said, I've got 4 streams, and those streams do different things. Well, actually, they do the same thing. But if we think about the framework just quickly so you can visualize it on this screen, we've got our research phase, that happens here. We've got our evaluate phase, that happens here. We've got our assess phase, that happens here. And we've got our produce phase, so creating something from this, and that happens here. And I'll just quickly dive through one of these workflows down the side. So what I do in this tool, this is an automation all of you have access to, I believe. Milind believes. Awesome. What I'm doing in here is I'm setting up a custom schedule. This one is, because I'm doing competitor research, I've chosen that this is going to happen, say, once every week. I could have it happen more often. I could have it happen less often. You obviously want to set this up so that it's relevant to what you're doing. There are other triggers in here as well, though. So when a meeting finishes, for example, you can trigger something to happen. Say, grab out the action items and put them somewhere else. Other Zoom, largely Zoom ecosystem currently, plans to expand, but at the moment I'm just using custom schedule. This will happen once a week for me on a Monday at 9 o'clock. Now I'll step down one of the workflows. So this is our research phase. And what I'm assuming is that Google Workspace may be a competitor to yours. Google Workspace, what I'm asking my AI to do is to be I'm sure we've all seen some prompt engineering. We know that we want to try and give our AI a role. And in this role, I'm telling it it's a market intelligence researcher. I want it to look at this specific competitor. And the reason why I've done this, by the way, is I've split this out into multiple separate competitors, is so that I can use as much of the AI's context as possible on this one competitor. And this is one of the other benefits of having automation tools. So if you know, with AI, we have a certain amount of context that our AI is able to sort of use in every request that we make. And that is a number of tokens that we send in, and tokens are basically characters, and a number of tokens that it can send back to. And these things are limited. But because we have automation tools now, we can run multiple things in sequence. Whereas before you would be running each of these manually, then running each of these manually, and then running each of these manually, and it would take you best part of half a day to do this. Based on now it's a fully automated, fully autonomous process. And therefore me splitting it up means that the AI can spend more time and more research on an individual company, and therefore produce me better outputs at the end, rather than spend a little bit of time on each company and then give me a little bit of information about these companies at the end. It's one of the reasons why I've split these up. I won't go through this prompt in detail. What I always do when I write my prompts is I give AI a guide of what I want my prompt to be about, and then AI generally will write the prompt for me, and that's where it will put in what the role should be, what the inputs should look like, what the output should look like, and what any critical requirements are. There's nothing special in here. This is purely just imagine a normal research prompt for looking at I have asked it for a specific output format. I want my output format to have a link to the source that it's used, and I want it to have a date, because I need this content to be relevant and timely. And that's what I'm going to leverage in the next phase of this workflow, which is the assess work. So inside this stage, the evaluate phase, this will now look at the data that is collected in step 1. So one of the nice things about this automation is that it really simplifies how you can get the data from previous AI calls that's happened. So this is an AI call that's happened. It's using the web search tool. There are other tools that you can use as well, but I only really need to use the web search tool to do this web-based research. It's using that information, and any inputs, you'll see more of these come up later in the workflow. that have come back, so this is from the research Google Workspace phase, I can just drag into here, and then that will bring back that AI generated information. In this one, I'm a strategic fact checker, and I'm going to go off and I'm going to validate all of the information that AI has just provided to you. And in here, I'm going to say, make sure that these are verified claims, make sure that they're not just marketing fluff as such. Make sure they are not older than 7 days. AI has a real problem with actually bringing back information that's super timely and relevant, hence why we validate this information. And then give me a score, well, tell me if these are accepted or rejected, and only move forward with the ones that are accepted. For my next phase, I bring in the information from my previous step, so this research step, the evaluate step, and now I'm going to assess that. And in this step, I basically tell it to give it a score. So for every one of the results that have come back based on this competitor analysis, give me a score. And I've said give me a score between 1 and 10. My criteria for this is 10 if it's a direct threat to Zoom and it needs to be actioned. We need to do something about it within, say, 24 to 48 hours. We need a response. Then that should be critical, and therefore I should see that first. That's the primary one. And then all the way down to 1 and 3, general industry news that does not impact our specific niche or current priorities. So what I'm saying is take the previous response, the one that has now been validated, now assess it to see how relevant it is to me based on the criteria that I've provided. And you can make this criteria really quite specific as well. This is relatively generic criteria, just to show this to them. Then I'm moving towards the the filtering stage. So this is where I decide what I actually want to see. And you'll notice down the side here, now we have a number of different steps. So every single one of the steps that is above this now comes into this single step. And so what I'm saying is for all 4 competitors that I'm reviewing, I now want to filter out just the numbers 7, 8, or 9. Or 10. Maybe actually 8, 9, or 10. So only the critical stuff that I need to care about. And I've done that by bringing in the responses from each of the assess phases into this extract content step. And I'm saying extract only stories that have a value of 8, 9, or 10. Ignore the rest. Ensure that the date and time are still linked. And I'm putting that into a field, which is just a single field, a big string, which is there when I decide what I actually want to see. And then my final step, the perform step, the process step, is to create a document or update a document that gets shared with the team. And so I could have an email step off the end of here. You might even have more steps than I have access to as the Zoom team. But what I've decided to do is put this into a document. And I'll show that document actually, if I can. Sorry, I should have had this open. In fact, because I've run this, so you'll be able to see the output. My weekly research. I can actually create a new file every single week as well if I wanted to have a bank of research that we created over time. But what this does now is it provides me my company. Right. Well, let me go. I'm hoping that this will take me towards the docs area. I must admit, I do find it slightly hard to navigate. Here we go. This one. So yeah, I've got the team to help me with this, so thank you. Appreciate that. Here's my research. So here you can see what I did in the step was I literally just put in a title, which was highest priority insights, and I've added the output. The output is from this step where it filters down all of these different sources that I have coming in to be just 7, 8, and 9. 9, 8, and 10. And it now shows me this. So this is my WebEx research. This is my Google Workspace research, this is my Teams research, and this is my Copilot research. And it's just brought me back the things that are relevant to me. And the nice thing is it's tried to tailor it to why these things might be threats. So the output, for example, for let's say Google Workspace, I haven't actually read this, but Google have released Gemini 3 Flash and Google Ultra for business integration. And here, this move challenges Zoom's differentiation in cross-app task automation and could influence adoption decisions. Trying to tailor it to you is really, really important. Obviously, my prompts are relatively generic. You can obviously create them much more focused on you and what your products are, what you're looking to try and solve with your products. But the output doesn't include all the information that came before this. So if I did have all the information in here, I'd probably have a 4 or 5 page document of every single thing that is possibly found. And what we've managed to do through This now runs every single week. I don't need to manage this or update this. What I can now do with this is I can bring this into the prompting that I may do. So if I was to boot up a new workflow, so let's say workflows, create a new workflow, add my first node, and this node can be, let's just say it's another custom schedule. If I'm going to build some content, imagine, I would now, in my AI step, where I say create me some content, I could now bring in my file from from Zoom Docs. So in one of these steps, add a node, in products, we have our doc node. I will slow down, sorry, I'm terrible at just speeding away. What I can do is I can now collect this document. So if I say get a document, I can now collect that weekly research, and I could bring that into move this step. So I would now bring that into my next workflow. And so create me some content, ensure that we are touching on the points in the research document, and then here is the research document. And in this step, just to be this is a slightly different step to the one I showed before that only had one. In this one, you can actually choose what piece of the document you want to pull out. So if it's the title or whether it's the owner. In here, I just use the content, so that bit in the middle. And now when I'm writing my content, or when I'm vetting my content, or I'm validating my content, you may have already have your content written in a different document. You just say, check this against the competitor research that I have. You're now able to use that regularly generated content to actually potentially improve some of the work that you're doing today. And this can be used in a huge number of different use cases. So this is purely just competitor research. But as I mentioned before, there's like event research. There's research specific for your teams. You could even be doing research on, what kind of courses are available for you guys to take as marketing teams in this new space. There is so much opportunity here for us to get good, relevant research done automatically for us. Couple of final things to cover, and then I'll take any questions. I'll share this with you. This goes into each of the different phases in slightly more detail. We've sort of covered that in the presentation today already. Some of the core use cases: competitor intelligence, which we've just covered, a market pulse, so what else is happening in the market, what are the things that we should be talking about that aren't necessarily related to our competitors, are there any white space against our that other people aren't talking about. Workflow intelligence, one of the nice things that you can do in Zoom and also in Google Workspace Flows is you can set up a workflow that will prepare meetings for you, for example. So this one here, this is just a template. Actually, there are templates in this system. This one will look at my documents, it will look at my meetings that I've held, and also the team chat that I'm working in, and it will bring all that information in to prepare me for my next meeting. And I've got a very similar one of these. We work in the Google Workspace most of the time. I've got a similar one of these in Google Workspace Flows that basically gives me a 10-minute prep before my next meeting. And you can also use it to vet and validate how you actually communicate with people as well. So you can say to the AI, please coach me on doing a better job at what I'm doing every single month. Look at my messages from the last month and give me some feedback on if I'm being conscientious, or if it feels like I'm answering the right question, and if the people who are responding back to me feel like they're getting the right kind of information. So if you're an individual that really likes to validate their space, it's a really good opportunity to set up some of these automated workflows to provide you that additional level of insight that maybe you're not getting today. Finally, as I mentioned, your automation toolkit, the tools that you do have access today and are free. Zoom Workspace Flows is amazing for the Zoom ecosystem. Currently, there is no better tool to automate workflows inside Zoom than Zoom's tooling. And that's really focused on communications and meetings. The majority of it at the moment. There isn't a lot of external third-party integrations that are happening in this space at the moment. I expect them to come. That's where we are at the moment. And then you've got Google Workspace Flows, which you can get to from flows.workspace.google.com. And this one is really good if you're working in the Google ecosystem. So if you need to look up a Google document, or you're working with a partner that maybe is working in Google Documents, it's much the same kind of workflows. So here's an example. Multi-steps, just like you saw. This is the same basically framework of going through those three different steps, but it's in the Google ecosystem. It's really good if you use any sort of Google products. So it's great at looking at your Google emails and your Google documents and creating Google Sheets and slides and things. Um, Quick key takeaways. So we are moving towards a much more agentic workforce. Everyone is going to be expected to do more of these sort of agentic, let's say, actions where you're doing more than just one prompt at a time. You're actually creating information, validating the information, making sure that that information is relevant for you and your teams. Do use the REAP framework. It does really, really work. It does cut through that noise and yeah, make that action, that intelligence that you actually create really actionable. So do send it to third-party systems. So if you use Asana or some other, well, I guess you probably use Zoom to manage tasks, send it into tasks, which is one of the actions in this workspace companion. Um, yeah, you can send things into tasks. Um, Hopefully, I've made the time. Uh, so there's amazing opportunities, I think, with research-based tasks at the moment. Some of the action-based tasks, they're limited in these tools at the moment. So, like actually pushing things out and doing things with third-party tools and listening to large sets of data, quite a challenge at the moment. But that will come. But there's no better place though to be doing research, in my opinion. Now, these are so simple to use and they're so targeted towards the individual, you guys, that